I'm Lee Brown. Here are your headlines. US President Donald Trump fires Fed Governor Lisa Cook over mortgage fraud allegations. Gaza officials say 20 killed in Israeli strike on hospital, including 5 journalists. And the French government risks collapse with budget confidence vote in September. For the first time in US history, a sitting president has dismissed a Federal Reserve governor. Trump's decision to oust Lisa Cook has already triggered sharp political and financial reactions. It is also igniting a debate over the limits of presidential authority.
US President Donald Trump has fired Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook in a move that could test the limits of presidential power over the independent central bank. On Truth Social post, Trump announced Cook's immediate removal, sparking fresh concerns about the independence of America's central bank. By former President Joe Biden in 2022, was the first African-American woman to sit on the Fed's governing board. In a letter, Trump said he had sufficient cause to remove her over alleged improprieties with mortgage loans. He accused her of listing 2 separate properties in Michigan and Georgia as her primary residence, raising questions about possible fraud. Trump went further, calling Cook's conduct deceitful and criminal. He said it undermined her integrity and showed negligence in financial matters, making her unfit to oversee regulation. In response to President's announcement, Cook has said Trump has no authority to fire her and she will not resign. The Federal Reserve has not yet commented on the issue. No president has ever removed a sitting Fed governor before. While the law allows removal for cause, it has never been tested in practice, as White House administrations for decades have avoided interference to protect confidence in monetary policy. Financial markets reacted quickly. US stocks ended lower on Monday, with the Dow Jones losing more than 349 points, the S&P 500 down nearly 28, and the Nasdaq slipping 47. 9 of the 11 S&P sectors closed in the red. The dollar also weakened. Gold, the yen and the Swiss franc all advanced as investors turned to safe haven assets. Futures for the S&P 500 dipped further, while Asian markets also fell.
Now, focusing on US international relations, President Trump met with South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung to discuss defense and trade. Trump also mentioned that he'd like to meet up with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un again sometime this year.
US President Donald Trump met with South Korea's new leader, Lee Jae-myung, for talks in Washington. The meeting, focused on trade and defense cooperation, follows a July trade deal in which Washington agreed to reduce its reciprocal tariff on South Korea to 15% from the initially proposed 25%. South Korea also agreed to invest $350 billion in the United States, with the talks aimed at discussing how the investment package will be structured and managed.
Yeah, I think we have a deal done. They had some problems with it, but we stuck to our guns. They're going to make the deal that they agreed to make. And he's a very good guy, very good representative for South Korea. It's a very big trade deal. You know, it's the biggest deal they've ever made by far, but it's one of the biggest deals ever made.
The two leaders also discussed modernizing their country's alliance. South Korea's economy relies heavily on the US, with Washington underwriting its security through troops and nuclear deterrence.
At a summit meeting today with President Trump and I agreed to make our own and modernize our bilateral alliance to be more reciprocal and future-oriented, in line with a changing security landscape, the US defense commitment to the Republic of Korea and our joint defense posture remain unwavering and ironclad. At the same time, Korea will take a more leading role in maintaining security on the Korean Peninsula.
While speaking to reporters before a meeting with his South Korean counterpart, Trump further expressed willingness to meet with North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un. The US president has already met Kim on 3 occasions and says he hopes to meet him again this year.
I have a great relationship with Kim Jong-un. I hope it stays that way. I think it will. I have a very good relationship. I understand him. I spend a lot of free time with him, talking about things that we probably aren't supposed to talk about. And, you know, I get along with him really well. I think he has a country of great potential, tremendous potential.
Is it possible you meet him this year or maybe next year?
Well, I'm meeting a lot of people. I mean, it's hard to say that, but I'd like to meet him this year.
The meeting marked the first summit between the 2 leaders following the impeachment of South Korea's former president, Yoon Suk-yeol.
And still.
Staying with Trump, the US president has warned of potential consequences if Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky fail to hold direct talks. Speaking alongside South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, Trump said the 2 leaders, quote, should meet, adding he will wait a week or 2 before considering further steps. He admitted resolving the Ukraine conflict has proven harder than expected, citing what he called the, quote, tremendous dislike between Putin and Zelensky. Beyond the politics of the Russia-Ukraine war, life in the Ukrainian city of Kostiantynivka is a daily struggle. Repeated Russian airstrikes and drone attacks have left much of it in ruins, with only a fraction of its population remain.
Kostiantynivka, a key city in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region, has become a front line of relentless Russian attacks. The city has been hit by airstrikes and gliding bombs, most recently on August 25th, when 5 bombs struck residential areas, injuring 3 women and 1 man. Once a bustling hub, Kostiantynivka is now largely deserted. Only 6,000 to 7,000 of the city's original 67,000 residents remain, as most have fled the danger. Shops and residential buildings are heavily damaged, many bearing signs of recent drone strikes. Anti-drone nets cover key checkpoints, while the threat of gliding and fibre optic drones has turned roads into kill zones. Local services are collapsing. Ukraine's state postal service, Ukrposhta, closed its branch in the city due to security concerns, leaving nearby towns as the only functioning hubs for pensions and essential deliveries. Private services shut even earlier. Elderly residents, often unable to leave due to low pensions, some receiving as little as $100 a month, are forced to navigate this hazardous landscape daily. Ukrainian forces continue to defend Kostiantynivka, a vital stronghold on the route to Kramatorsk. Russian troops are positioned just a few kilometers from the city and are advancing in a pincer movement, making the front lines increasingly dangerous.
Turning to the wider implications of the Russia-Ukraine war, A News spoke with Alec Kazman about the Russia-Ukraine war. Kazman emphasized the global importance of supporting Ukraine, warning that whoever wins will be a technological winner. According to Alec, if Ukraine is going to lose, it will threaten all of Europe.
I think England may have a little bit more leverage with President Trump, but also just like any partner country, they're an important ally. They have been helping militarily and financially, and hopefully they will continue standing with Ukraine, just like the rest of Europe. And frankly, Europe altogether, they need to step up and provide more military assistance to Ukraine. At the moment, as been said many times, drones defined this war. And what's really needed the most from any ally willing to help Ukraine is investment in scaling that production of unmanned aircraft. They redefined this war. They move very quickly towards autonomous warfare. Both Russia and Ukraine are in competition for that leadership in technology. And I believe any country willing to support Ukraine, and not only Ukraine, but a free world, stand against authoritarian regimes like China, Iran, North Korea, and of course Russia. Any country willing to defend their freedoms, they need to be on Ukrainian side, helping Ukraine with that technology, because if Ukraine is going to lose this war, God forbid, that technology winner, is a technological winner, is going to turn around other countries, and then we're going to be in very big troubles.
Now to the Middle East, where Israel has carried out airstrikes on Gaza's Nasser hospital, killing at least 20 people, among them 5 journalists. The journalists killed include freelancers and reporters working with Reuters, Al Jazeera and the Associated Press. Israel's military says it has launched an inquiry, while press freedom groups accuse it of targeting the media. Please note that the following report contains distressing images.
Smoke and chaos at Gaza's Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis. An Israeli strike hit the medical complex on Monday. Reuters cameraman Hussam al-Masri was killed in the first strike. Moments later, a second blast struck the site. As rescue workers and journalists rushed to help. In total, Palestinian health officials say 20 people were killed, including 5 journalists. Among them, Al Jazeera's Mohammed Salama, freelancers Mariam Abu Daga, Ahmed Abu Aziz, and Moaz Abu Taha. His brother, inconsolable as he sat by his body.
Take a picture of me, guys. I do not have a single photo with him. We worked together so much, yet I never took even one picture with him.
Press freedom group Reporters Without Borders condemned the attack.
When and where is it going to end? Are we going to let the Israel Defense Forces continue the repeated killing of journalists? There is international law. There are guarantees that should be granted to journalists covering conflicts, and none of that seems to be applying. So we need to be very clear about the fact that none of the journalists that are allegedly terrorists are terrorists. They are professional journalists working for legacy professional media, like, for example, Reuters or, for example, AP.
The Israeli military confirmed a strike in the area, but said it does not target civilians and has opened an inquiry.
IDF troops carried out a strike in the area of Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. We are aware of reports that harm was caused to civilians, including journalists. The Chief of the General Staff has instructed that an inquiry be conducted immediately to understand the circumstances of what happened and how it happened.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the strike a tragic mishap, but insisted the war is against Hamas. And the United Nations condemned the killings.
The Secretary General recalls that civilians, including medical personnel and journalists, must be respected and protected at all times. He calls for a prompt, impartial investigation into these killings. He reiterates that medical personnel and journalists must be able to perform their essential duties without interference, without intimidation, and without harm.
The strike has drawn international attention, with world leaders reacting to the deadly attack. US President Donald Trump on Monday said he wasn't aware of the incident.
Today.
I didn't know that.
Any reaction to this? Are you
Well,
going
I'm
to
not
talk to
happy
the Prime
about it.
Minister?
I don't want to see it. At the same time, we have to end that whole nightmare.
And Turkey's President Erdogan called the bombing of the hospital a villainous attack, accusing Israel of being brutal and inhumane. Funeral processions were held for the journalists killed, their press vests draped over their bodies. Since the war began in October 2023, 189 Palestinian journalists have been killed by Israeli fire, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. The strike on Nasser Hospital adds to the mounting international pressure on Israel and has fueled fresh outrage over its conduct in Gaza.
In Europe, attention is on France, where the Prime Minister is bracing for a crucial confidence vote on plans to cut the deficit. The high-stakes move comes amid strong public opposition to spending cuts.
France's government faces a severe test after Prime Minister François Bayrou announced a September 8th confidence vote on his €44 billion budget-cutting plan. The move will test support in a divided parliament as Bayrou attempts to reduce a budget deficit that hit 5.8% of GDP last year, nearly double the EU's 3% limit. Failure to win would bring down his minority government.
Un danger immédiat pèse sur nous.
An immediate danger weighs on us, which we have to face, not tomorrow or the day after, but today, without any kind of delay, without which the future will be taken from us and the present harshly and heavily worsened. Our country is in danger because we are at risk of over-indebtedness.
Durement et lourdement aggravé.
Bayrou's austerity push has faced criticism from both left and right, raising the risk of a no-confidence vote similar to the one that ousted his predecessor, Michel Barnier, in 2024. The September 8th vote will come just 2 days before planned nationwide protests, backed by unions and leftist parties, drawing comparisons to the 2018 Yellow Vest movement.
Remaining in Europe, where immigration tensions in Britain are spilling out onto the streets. Anti-migrant protests flared again last weekend, but this time outside a hotel in East London. It follows a wave of demonstrations across the country, with the government now under pressure to reform the asylum system and reduce its reliance on housing asylum seekers in hotels.
Anti-migrant protesters gathered outside the Bell Hotel in Epping on Sunday, waving British flags and holding placards. The hotel has become a flashpoint after a court ruling last week ordered the removal of asylum seekers from the site. The government plans to appeal the decision. The protest came just a day after police were forced to separate rival groups across several English cities, including Bristol, Liverpool, Newcastle and Hawley. Mounted officers were deployed in Bristol's Castle Park, while in Liverpool, 11 arrests were made for offences including assault and disorderly conduct. In Hawley, around 200 anti-immigration demonstrators clashed with roughly 50 counter-protesters from Stand Up to Racism. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour government has pledged to phase out hotel use and accelerate asylum decisions. On Sunday, ministers unveiled plans for a new fast-track appeals process, overseen by an independent panel of adjudicators. The aim is to reduce a backlog of more than 100,000 cases, including 51,000 appeals, where applicants are currently waiting over a year for a ruling. Local councils are also considering legal action similar to the case in Epping, while Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has vowed mass deportations if he comes to power. For now, immigration remains one of Britain's most divisive political issues, and one that continues to spill out onto the streets.
Turning to South America, where Venezuela has announced plans to deploy 15,000 military personnel to its border with Colombia to strengthen security and combat drug trafficking in the region. Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello said the operation will focus on the states of Zulia and Táchira, using drones, boats, aircraft and other vehicles to patrol the frontier. The announcement comes as US destroyers operate in the southern Caribbean as part of anti-drug cartel missions across Latin America. Now, Iran's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and political directors of the foreign ministries of France, Germany and the UK will resume talks in Switzerland on Tuesday to negotiate a deal on the future of Iran's nuclear sanctions. Our Turaj Shiralilu has more from Tehran.
The upcoming meeting in Geneva follows the joint telephone conversation of Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi with his counterparts from the European Troika, as well as the EU Foreign Policy Chief on Friday. The conversation was held days before the deadline set by the European powers, which are signatories of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, to activate the snapback mechanism or return of UN nuclear sanctions in October if they do not reach an agreement with Iran by end of August. In the meantime, Tehran has stepped up its diplomatic contacts with Beijing and Moscow, which, similar to the European powers, are the JCPOA parties. They are also permanent members of the UN Security Council, wielding the veto power. According to a foreign ministry press release, the foreign ministers of Iran and Russia talked on phone on Saturday and stressed that the E3 lacks legal and moral authority to call for reactivation of the snapback mechanism of UN sanctions. And Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Garibabadi held a telephone talk with his Chinese counterpart about the nuclear negotiations and the UN Security Council Resolution 2231 regarding Iran's nuclear sanctions, which expires in October. Also, local news media reported that the Egyptian foreign minister, in a phone talk with his German counterpart, has called for resumption of the nuclear talks with Iran, as well as Tehran's cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei on Sunday ruled out direct nuclear negotiations with the US and said Tehran will not be obedient to Washington's demands, which is insisting on zero enrichment by Iran. Turaj Shiralilu, reporting for A News TV, Tehran.
President of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, held a phone call with his Russian counterpart, focusing on a number of regional and global issues. Pezeshkian said that Iran remains committed to speed up the construction of Rasht-Astara Railway, the key of the north-south corridor linking the Persian Gulf with Russia. Pezeshkian also noted that 3+3 platform is a more effective way to discuss the future of the Caucasus region. Vladimir Putin reaffirmed Russia's unwavering support for Iran's uranium enrichment rights. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan met with his Egyptian counterpart Badr Abdul-Lati on Monday in Jeddah. The two discussed bilateral ties and regional developments while Fidan prepares to chair the Organization of Islamic Cooperation session addressing Israel's ongoing assault on Gaza, which has killed more than 62,000 Palestinians since October 2023. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan made a statement regarding the foundation of the Kaz-İgdor Al-Alik-Delaju railway line, a part of a broader Zangezur corridor concept. According to reports from Turkish media, Erdogan also spoke about the areas that will develop as a result of the regular railway line. In his statement, Erdogan emphasized the importance of the railway connection along the Zangezur corridor route. He noted that the opening of the railway line will increase production and exports in eastern and southeastern Anatolia, improve transportation infrastructure, and expand the tourism potential of the Mediterranean region. Staying on the topic, Georgia seems to not sit back while Armenia and Azerbaijan edged closer to a Zangezur corridor that could sideline Tbilisi's transit influence. Instead, the country is increasing speed with an international tender now open for supervising the new Batumi-Sapi highway.
The South Caucasus is entering a new era. Armenia and Azerbaijan are close to a final peace deal which could open the Zangezur corridor, a direct link from Azerbaijan to Turkey. For Georgia, that's a challenge. If cargo moves through Armenia, Tbilisi risks losing part of its role as the region's main gateway. But Georgia is keen to remain a relevant player in regional connectivity by investing in infrastructure projects. The latest step, a new highway between Batumi and Sarpi on the Turkish border. The plan is ambitious: 11 kilometers of road, a tunnel stretching 7.6 kilometers, a bridge almost 1.5 kilometers long, and plus 2 interchanges and coastal protections. Funded by the Asian Development Bank and the state budget, the project is now open for international tenders. Supervision will last 4 years with proposals due by September 2025. The stakes are high. Batumi is Georgia's tourist capital, the heart of the Black Sea coast. A faster, safer road means more trade, more visitors, and more regional ties. So while new corridors may shift the balance in the South Caucasus, Georgia is making sure it remains vital. It's Nini Nikolaishvili reporting from Tbilisi, A News.
Now, moving to the Far East and Central Asia, where Japan is strengthening its partnership with Kazakhstan by providing financial aid to support those affected by nuclear testing. During the first official visit of Japan's Foreign Minister Takeshi Iwa, key agreements were reached to boost trade, investment and collaboration in strategic sectors. Our correspondent Fariza Kalimazina has more.
Japan will provide Kazakhstan with $7.4 million in aid for victims of nuclear testing and is set to deepen its economic cooperation with the country. This announcement came during the official visit of Japanese Foreign Minister Takeshi Iwa to Astana, his first visit to Kazakhstan in this role. Following talks with Kazakhstan's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Murat Nurtliu, both sides agreed to strengthen trade and economic ties through increased investment, expanded exports and joint projects in strategic sectors. Japan is currently among Kazakhstan's top 10 foreign investors, having contributed over $9 billion in direct investment to date. Last year, bilateral trade approached $2 billion, and the Kazakh side believes there is strong potential to build on this figure. Key areas for future cooperation include the export of non-ferrous and rare earth metals. Kazakhstan supplies 22 of the 32 critical raw materials Japan needs for its green transition. As a result, partnerships are being explored between Kazakhstan's Tauken Samruk and Japan's Oil, Gas and Metals National Corporation. Transport infrastructure also was a key topic during the talks. Japan has pledged support to digitalize customs procedures at the port of Aktau, which is part of the Trans-Caspian International Transport Route. The two sides also agreed to speed up preparations for the Central Asia plus Japan summit, which was postponed last year due to an earthquake in Japan. The meeting is now expected to take place as soon as possible. In addition, a direct flight between Almaty and Tokyo is set to begin in 2026, a move expected to boost business and cultural ties between the two countries. Also, Kazakhstan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Murat Nurtliu announced that discussions took place regarding the organization of an official visit by Kazakhstan's President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev to Japan, expected to take place before the end of this year. From Almaty, Kazakhstan, Fariza Kalimuzina, A News.
A top United Nations counter-terrorism official has issued a stark warning about ISIS Khorasan, better known as ISIS-K. She says the group continues to pose a serious threat not only inside Afghanistan, but also across Europe and Central Asia. Our correspondent Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
Natalia Gurman, Executive Director of the UN Counterterrorism Committee, told the Security Council that ISIS-K is actively recruiting members and raising money through online propaganda campaigns. Her remarks come even as Afghanistan's Taliban rulers, who call themselves the Islamic Emirates, insist that ISIS has been defeated in the country. But security experts say the reality is more complex. ISIS-K formed in 2015 as the Afghan branch of the so-called Islamic State, has carried out some of the deadliest bombings in the region. The group emerged in eastern Afghanistan and pledged allegiance to ISIS global leadership. Unlike the Taliban, whose focus is on ruling Afghanistan, ISIS-K aims to establish transnational Islamic Caliphate. The ideological divide has made the two groups bitter rivals. Since the Taliban's takeover in 2021, ISIS-K has repeatedly targeted Taliban forces, government offices and civilians in deadly attacks. The United Nations say the danger now is that ISIS-K could expand beyond Afghanistan's borders through its digital networks and regional links, raising fears of new violence far outside the country. For now, the Taliban claim victory over ISIS-K, but the UN warns the group remains resilient and very much alive. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
That's all your news for now. Stay tuned to A News and have a great morning.